the ending.
Mm-hmm.
So first, because it's largely silent and because it's largely like longing glances back and forth at each other, there's so much facial acting that's incredible in this movie from both of the actresses, Naomi Marlant and Adele Haenel, which I may be mispronouncing their very French names. But at the end, where you just focus in on Heloise finally getting to hear this orchestral piece for the first time, and it feels like for the time very modern. It's very like dissident and like powerful and strong, and she's just having this like the range of hearing this musical piece on her face for the first time. And Marianne is seeing her from across the theater in Milan, and it's just so incredible.
It did take me to a place, and I think it's because they spend so much time there, right? So they spend so much time in that scene for the music to start off like softly and like build up or whatever, and like the range of emotions that she's going through. It just sits you there with her, watching her and listening to music, and there's nothing else going on. So it really gives you time to watch that happen. And it sort of like brought me back to this moment. And we talked afterwards of, they don't have radios. They don't have Spotify, and like the limit of music in their lives and like the impact it would have whenever you're going to like that full like symphony orchestra and hearing that, something that you're only going to be able to listen to like once or twice or however many times in your life, well, and that was a beautiful moment.
Yeah. And this is a piece that Marianne had described to her, again, talking about like who's having experiences and who's not. So Heloise has never seen that kind of, like, I'm sure she's seen like a street player maybe, but never been to a symphony, never experienced anything like that. And she's trying to describe it earlier on in the film. And it's just one of those things that's clearly indescribable. And then, getting to watch her have this moment just, oh my God, it absolutely floored me.
Yeah. Another music moment that I don't know if you caught it all, but let me know if you did. But there's this moment where they're all at this bonfire with very evocative of like, witches dancing in the forest kind of bonfire. It is just all women out there.
It's after the abortion with the doctor who does it, or midwife, or
yeah. So it's just all of these women gathered in, on this beach or whatever. And there's, bonfire playing. It's actually where the Portrait of a Lady on Fire image comes from, this scene.
Because her like impractical dress gets caught in the fire.
Well, surprise. But there's this moment where they do this song together. It is this gorgeous, like, a cappella, very witchy vibe, like, song that they sing together. I don't know what it is, but I'm sure it's on their soundtrack and I need to find it. But it is just this, like, moment of, like, I don't know, it just reminds me of the female solidarity that they were all like having together. Even all of these women that weren't like even characters in the film, it's still just beyond the sort of house on a cliff that they stay with, them three. And the woman who did the abortion procedure is these other women from town, I guess. Mm-hmm. But they all like still have time to get together at this bonfire, sing their creepy songs together. And it was kind of mesmerizing. I don't know, just to get together with that number of women and have just time for them, I guess, was a nice scene as well.
Well, and kind of back to that idea of like, the women's gaze, and then also not just constantly being trauma porn. I feel like I've seen a version of this movie where Sophie goes to the sinister, creepy witch doctor and ends up dying, and, you know, trauma ensues. And like, there's definitely, and to instead, and not to say that that doesn't happen, right? But like to instead have this communal moment with these women together and this woman you don't know who's just helped you. You know, I could see where this movie goes down different paths that I've seen before. And it's when it like comes up next to that opportunity and goes a completely different way that I love it even more.
Yeah. 100%.
One other thing, that I did want to say is that I researched a little bit, like, kind of about this, and I heard the writer and director Celine Sciamma talk about it a little bit, and I didn't know this, but apparently there were a lot, especially in France, of women painters in the second half of the 18th century. Hundreds of them, you know, making their living. There were women art critics, and we kind of had this progression in that way, and then there was a backlash, and these women were kind of erased from history, and that's why she specifically wanted to tell this story, and that's the inspiration. And she had this quote, which is very, you know, timely, and said, "We're always told there is a linear progression regarding women's rights, but we know that's not true, and we know about backlash, especially today." So that's kind of like part of the inspiration is talking about a time like, there are these moments where we've sort of have a peak of women's rights and then it comes right back down. Talking about just the time period and what these women are able to do. And
yeah, definitely.
I thought that was really interesting and a cool inspiration.
You know, I actually just read this essay by Rebecca Sonlet. She's the author and essayist that wrote Men Explain Things to Me, that collection. But she does talk about like women's rights in that, you know, like everybody wants to think it's like this one long road that you're taking to it, and kind of what you're saying where it's not necessarily like a linear progression.
Right.
But one of the things she said, and didn't know we were going to go down this road with this, but so I don't have the quote right in front of me, but the impression of that essay is like, you know, it's not linear, but like almost like once you let that out of the box, you know, she sort of uses the metaphor of Pandora's box. Right. Like once that is opened, like there's no getting it back in. So like there might be a backlash and suppression or whatever, but like it's already out and we're coming back for it. Like you can't stop it. Which nice. I thought was nice. So
that's awesome. That's actually, more hopeful than I think.
Yeah.
I felt in a while. Yeah. This movie was incredible. And again, just how it's told, and it's not about the prospective husband. It's not about the guy who gets Sophie pregnant. It's just a story about these women, and these are all just sort of like, there might be these moving parts somewhere else in the world. I love that we never even meet the husband.
Yes. And since, like the only men in it is like the man that like helps row the painter to this, you know, remote place, and he has like one line or something,
and then just points and then he's like, gone. Go over there. Yeah.
Be gone. Thank you. You've done enough.
Oh man, something I wanted to say in the beginning, the very start of the film, her canvas kind of falls off the boat and starts floating away, and she jumps in, and I remember thinking like it was kind of impressive that she could swim.
With all the clothes?
Well, and in general, I think, like, you know, that's not always something that women were able to do at this time.
Oh,
or allowed to do.
But you also mentioned, like, the class differences, and I feel like that's probably where that comes into play.
Well, because Heloise definitely can't swim.
Yes.
And mentions that, too.
Like, she's going to drown. But Marianne, you know, she's lived that tough life, so I'm sure.
Well, and then speaking
have
of that, so she's there in this like island soaking wet and freezing. And then that scene, right when I knew I was going to be in love with this fucking movie, was she's sitting completely naked in front of the fire smoking her pipe. And it's just one of the most gorgeous shots. And I'm just like, okay, yeah. I'm very into this. Yeah, so Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Check that out on Hulu.
Let us know what you think.
Yeah, it's incredible. And before we go, Olivia, what are you obsessed with this week?
Okay, so we are recording this as of the, like, I don't know, 4th week or so in our shelter in place.
Who even knows anymore?
Yeah, time has ceased to mean
Pretty
anything.
sure it's only been 2 weeks. It just feels like forever.
So what I've been obsessed with, and it's mostly an effort to keep sanity, is to find and like reinvigorate old hobbies of mine. So that's been including dance and painting. I think it's a apt topic for this particular podcast. But yeah, I haven't like painted really in over a year, maybe more. I had to do porch pickups to borrow some paints that I didn't necessarily have. But I've gotten back into that. It's been a lot of fun. It's a media that we don't talk about much on this podcast, but I've been reintroducing myself to that and having a lot of time just getting lost into that. And remembering, the reasons why I enjoyed doing this in the first place. So I think that's keeping me a little sane in this time of quarantine, is to remember those kind of things. Because, they were so much fun, like so much time you dedicated to these things. Like there's a reason for that. And now we have all the time in the world. So why not dig those up and go for it? So that's what I'm obsessed with.
Nice. This film is good inspiration for that too.
Definitely.
So the thing that I've been obsessed with is, I feel like I'm plugging Hulu a lot. I don't even like them that much, but it's just coming up. But their adaptation of Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng. This was something that Reese Witherspoon did with her production company, and
you're on a first name basis, it's
right?
Fine.
We hang. But and also starring Kerry Washington, who is incredible as this character. I love this book. I highly recommend the book. I almost do think that you could start watching it. I don't know. Up to you. Whether you want to read the book first. Both are great, and I highly recommend them. But seeing it come to life and seeing these like racial dynamics play out, and it's set in the 90s in this like small perfect little suburb in Ohio, and Kerry Washington's character is just there to like not even give a fuck about these white people's like feelings and sensitivities, and it's so good. And then Reese Witherspoon is bringing all her upper middle class suburban energy from Big Little Lies just straight into this, and then adding like 90s dynamics. It's so good. I'm loving every minute of it. We just got through episode 5, and you'll definitely, and there's some good storytelling there, and definitely a couple moments where you're like, ooh, it's heating up.
So it is limited series, right?
I'm not positive, but I feel like it has to be a limited series. I do not want them to, nor think they should go beyond one season.
Gotcha.
Just the way that book is written without giving any spoilers, no. It needs to be left the way that it was. Probably the way that Big Little Lies should have been left, but yes, they better not do a second season. There's no room for it.
I feel that on a lot of things, and I know we've kind of disagreed on some shows. Totally good with like the limited run series episodes or whatever. I'm just like, no, don't make another one. Like, just leave it where it stands. Like, I like having a feeling of resolution while things are so good.
Specifically, yeah,